Okay, here we are for the DAP program for Xtreme Motorsports at Suzuka. So no further ado, we'll get going here. As I approach the first corner, what I'm looking at is this break in the track. There's this extension road or something that comes in here, but that's my kind of braking turn-in point mark. This weather, I'm not braking a whole lot more, just kind of brushing, getting into fourth gear, and then getting through this corner and straightening the car out as much as I can for the next right-hander as we go through here. So get down into fourth gear. If I turn in, get it down. Now you're going to get a little loose to that corner. Now I want to straighten it up as much as I can and brake and head toward this outside. Slow the car down enough, get into third gear, and really try to make sure you get on this apex, which kind of leads you into the S's. So this corner is important so that you don't get out of rhythm pretty much for the entire section of these S's. So down into third gear. Just looking at the curb and the pieces, the kind of the dark pieces here, you can use pretty much every curb through the S's a little bit, some of them a little more, some of you can get into the dirt and stuff. So use that to your advantage and kind of shorten up that corner a little bit. So as we come out, I'm going to go ahead and track far right for this one. It's important to get through this one correctly. This next right-hander and then the right-hander that exits the kind of S's, the last one before you go sweeping up the hill, are the slowest of the two to me. So those are the slowest two. So I'm not really going to brake until I get up to this next one. I'm going to definitely slow a little bit through here. It's a lift in this weather. Sometimes I might be able to do it flat, but this is just, I think in this lap, just a slight lift as I go through here on the apex. And then I don't worry about swinging all over the right. It's more important just to hug this and get to the apex right and slow it down as you're coming in and accelerate back out of that next corner. So stay in fourth, use a lot of the curb. Now I can slow it down. You see I didn't track all the way out. I mean, I still stayed as left as I could, but I'm set up then nicely for this right-hander in this section. So I take the right-hander and use a little bit of the curb. I'm just lifting a little bit and then accelerating. You have to slow, obviously, on the entry to this. So I am going to do some braking as I come in to help slow it up, making sure I get down the apex and back on and swing out. Now this one, obviously I'm lifting on entry here. The important thing is to stay tight. You can use some of this curb. To me, it doesn't matter if I float way far out, especially in this cold weather. I don't feel like I'm scrubbing the tires too much in my longer runs. But go ahead and tighten this one. Really, the next one in the entry to this next one is the most important. But you can really get on the power early. Even now I'm trying to set up for this right-hander, which really is the last one before the straight. So this is your important corner since it's the last one. There's some marks on the curb and some marks as you fall off, and that's kind of what I look at. Especially if I get more on the curb, I'll use that mark as kind of my point. I want to exit it. You do want to be kind of mid-track to right. I'm maybe a little too far left on this lap, but then you should be able to be full throttle as you come out of this up the hill. If you're tight, make sure you get into that corner a little later on your apex. Kind of drive straight. Don't start turning right away because then you'll swing way too wide on the exit on the right. But you can look at the cones as we come up, and you'll see the cones as we come through the left-hander portion of this. You can use those as kind of your marker as you exit. So I'll get into this, stay in fourth, slow it down, then accelerate out. Now I can swing to mid. It's good enough if I swing mid. And now I'm going to try to, get down to this curb and not apex too early. So I want to get here and then accelerate out because this is really where this straight is starting down to the Degner curves. So you'll start seeing the cones up here, and that's kind of your point where you don't want to track out that far. You can take a little bit of the outside curb as I do here and then just continue to pinch it down. But you should be able to hold full throttle all the way out through this section. It's really important to lap time to make sure you get that exit at that right and right. So come down here, there's the 50 board and this kind of mark. I'm before the 50 board and where the track is light. Then you can take a lot of this curb. I get a little too upset on this one, but I'll get it right. I'm just a little struggling a little through these two corners right now in my practice sessions. I don't think I'm going to pick up a lot of time. I'm just going to pick up some consistency in them. So without further ado, fourth gear, hitting the curb, then you can track all the way out as you come through. And then there's dark light, so I brake right about where this dark section on the curbing ends and then get myself over this curb as well. So this is the one I'm struggling with more. I go third gear, and then track out. I do not get a 1X on this lap, but I'm pretty close as I come out of here, and I want to get the consistency right through this corner. I think I'm just not slowing the car enough on the entry of this corner. Curving out, and then accelerate up to this chicane, or 90 to 180, whatever you want to call this. So this 180, I use this pole and the shadows here in these sessions. It's kind of my reference on my right side of where I brake. You want to make sure you get the car slowed and get down to the black, because you can accelerate pretty hard out of this corner and use a lot of the curb. The key is to make sure you have some turning done so you can start unwinding the wheel so it doesn't just want to get loose on you. Pretty easy to see people spin, and usually when they spin on here, it's because they know you can get on power. You can kind of see the camber and the uphill. So you can get on the power great, but just make sure you get the wheel, unwinding the wheel. So down into second gear, down to the curb, and then you can get on the power and unwind. Use all that curbing on the exit. Now the one thing with this curbing on the exit, there's this kind of bump here. As you exit, you can even ride over this. I try to get off or barely hit it as I come off the curb. But make sure you have the wheel straight by this time. If you kind of are pushing out and hitting this with steering input still, it will really upset the car. So just make sure you have the wheel straight as you come over that bump. And I like to kind of hang the inside through this section. You can clip the green and the red through there, and just run all the way up till we get to Spoon. So this is the next most important corner with a big long straight after it. So again, there's a road that comes here. In this colder weather, I'm able to go past this road before I brake. But it's very similar to turn one. I brake, get to fourth, and then I can accelerate out to the curbing over here, and then be ready quickly to get on the brakes, downshift to third for the most important one, getting onto that straight. So it's real important to get the car all the way down to the curbing on that left-hander. So brake fourth, use some of the curb and accelerate out. Now, sometimes I go all the way out to the green here. This lap I did not, but now I'm going to be on the brakes pretty soon. I want to be on way before, I don't know, maybe a meter, 2 meters before the end of this curbing, and then make sure I get down to the inside curb here and accelerate out. The track kind of falls away from you. It's not uncommon to be a little loose, but just kind of play with the accelerator pedal as you're coming through there, and use all the track out you can on the way out. So down to third, accelerate out. You get this right, you're not even worried about hitting the grassier part out there. So then it's down the straight. This cold weather, you're able to easily go through here wide open. You don't need to lift or do anything. What I'm generally looking at is this 50-meter board that's coming out, 50 marker board. So when you hit this 50, that's my turn-in point. So I'm not going to lift. I like to hit a little early. You can even take a little bit of this curb. In the hotter weather, I definitely do. Cold weather, I don't really have to. I probably should take a little more than I did in this lap. But in any case, you can just clip this curb. Doesn't hurt the car at all. Straighten out and just drive through this without any issues. So it can get a little sketchy. Just make sure you're light on the steering as you go through there. So the final corner. This is interesting chicane. It's got bumps everywhere, but you need to use the curb. You need to use the bumps. So it means straighten up, as I like to say, and before you hit the gas. So 100, I'm braking down to third. If I'm with someone, if I'm inside, I'll probably go down to second gear and use second on the inside. But then I'll have to be quick up into third as you come out. The one thing is, if you're the person on the outside getting past, this corner really is kind of difficult to go through side by side, and you'll lose a ton of time, especially if you're the guy getting past. So sometimes it's better to give this thing up and slot right back in so you can maybe get them back down that straight. But if you're trying to draft a guy in front or trying to make sure you stick with some guys, he has that big run on you, take it. And it's better, if you get the pass done early for both of your sake, obviously. So as we come down here, use the curb, then you have to feather the throttle. So this bump over this curb, there's a big bump in here, and I spun numerous times in practice. You just kind of have to be careful with it. You can't be full throttle over it. So I like to just kind of go part throttle as I come over this, track out, and then feel the car when I can get back on to full power. So I kind of have to feather it and then just feather in the power. And that's a lap. So it's I I might not have explained all the details, but it's a definitely a track that's different from most in the aspect of you have to use a little throttle control in the MX-5 in here, especially through Spoon, through that chicane right there, through the Degner curves even. So there's a lot of places where you have to be good on the accelerator pedal at this track. So I will play this lap back again without me talking, and hope you enjoy.